Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Tracy Una Wagner with Versatile Inspirations. And I have to apologize again. I tried streaming, and if you've looked online, you'll see the mess and destruction that it was with trying to stream on YouTube Live. That is just such craziness. Oh my gosh, it worked just fine, and then my internet went out, and then all the settings went haywire when I got it back up. So now that Google Hangout is no more, I may just end up having to do videos and then do the Zoominar, because that's so much easier. You press a button and it goes. This is just, I don't get it. So it takes a smarter tech savvy person than I to work with Zoom or with YouTube Live. So anyway, I'm doing this video and I'm going to replace that old one because it is just a mess. It is jerky and the audio and video isn't synced up, and my husband said something about the rate that it was going through, and honestly, I don't even know a whole lot about that. So I'm going to do it this way. Anyway, welcome to the Sacred Circle. I so appreciate your presence. When I say Sacred Circle, I just envision all of us being wrapped up in just a cocoon of love and blessings. And you can just continue to have that throughout your day, your week, your month, your year. Every time you think of a sacred circle or have that thought, just know that you're cocooned in just a bunch of love. So this time, the topic is Halloween and Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead, fact versus fantasy. There are a lot of things attached to the Halloween holiday. So I kind of want to just kind of poke through the myths and legends, and some of them at least, and just offer up a little bit of what's going on, what I believe the truth is about this time of year, and maybe a little bit of ritual that you can do for yourself that will actually get you into the holiday season, and hopefully you'll just like being able to do them. So for the first myth is that Halloween is basically an American holiday. That's completely not true. Actually, Halloween has evolved to what it is now from way back before Christianity. It was pre-Christian Celtic festival known as Samhain or Samhain. November 1st marked the end of harvest and actually a whole new year for the Celts. And the night before, they celebrated with a festival, with a celebration. And at that time, they believed that the souls of the dead were around them during this time of celebration. And so they celebrated the fruits of the harvest. They celebrated death, the afterlife, and supernatural, basically. It wasn't until St. Patrick and some other people decided to convert Ireland to Christianity that they kind of were trying to get people into the church and away from celebrating the Samhain and those kinds of festivals and celebrations, because they didn't believe in those things. So what they did was they kind of took over the holiday and they made it All Saints Day or All Hallows Day. And with that, All Hallows Eve or Halloween became a thing. So with that, number 2 in the myths is that legends and scary stories and folklore are actual things that happened. And I don't believe they actually were. Things like, you've probably heard these, black cats are bad, Friday the 13th, witches and warlocks, especially. Bloody Mary, the ghostly hitchhiker, and like cursed videos such as The Ring and things like that. While a lot of them are dramatized and they're just for our entertainment, some of those things, especially like witches and warlocks and how they're going to get children and the devil, and during this time is for devil worshiping and things like that. I believe that a lot of that fear was attributed to people wanting, very religious people wanting the others that celebrated Samhain and festivities like that to be brought into the church. And so making the other holidays and festivities look more bad is how they switched and possibly brought people over. And the people that unfortunately didn't agree with that were persecuted, were killed, were tortured in horrible ways. And so I think the legends and scary stories kind of came for Halloween, came from that thinking that, this is what used to happen. They used to celebrate Samhain or Samhain, and so it's just bad. And so some of those scary stories developed from just that fear of the fear that was attributed to going from just the Samhain to All Hallows Eve or All Hallows Day or All Saints Day. Number 3 myth, which kind of they go in a kind of a line. The number 3 myth is that Halloween is satanic or for Satan worshipers or for the devil worshipers. And honestly, Samhain never had the devil a part of it whatsoever. If you think about it, it was a festival. It was celebration, the end of the harvest, the end of their toil. They were having to bring in the corn and the wheat and get prepared for winter. So all of that, they were celebrating having done that, and now their new year was starting. And they believed, because of this celebration going on, that they had their deceased loved ones with them and that the souls were celebrating with them. So if you think about it, that's really not devilish or satanic or anything else. I think maybe where that came from was trying to get people incorporated into the church and saying that people that follow the Celtic tradition of Samhain were bad, were not following their Christian roots or their Christian religion. So I think that is where a lot of that took place. Just turning my notes over. Alrighty. And I think it's funny that there are a lot of people dress up as devils. So you may just see devils during Halloween, but they're knocking on your door asking for treats so that they don't play a trick on you. So just letting you know, there probably will be a devil or two out there, but it's not for what you think. So what do I believe the truth is of this holiday? Honestly, I too believe that we are close with souls during this time. I think because of the history of it all, because there's such a long-standing tradition from the Celts and possibly before the Celtic tradition of Samhain. But I believe during this time what a lot of people call the veil, or that demarcation between the material and the spirit world, is very thin right now. It is, I believe, because the history is so rich with that knowledge. Even people today celebrate Samhain, and I believe that because the tradition has been so long-standing, it has become a thing. It has its own energy to it. And we are able to experience that spirit communication or feel the spirit world easier during this time because of it, because we have been acknowledging it for so long that the energy is such that the veil is thinner. So during this time, a lot of people will communicate or say that they feel their loved ones with them. And honestly, right now it will go through, because I think the celebration time starts, for me, it seems to start with Halloween, and then it continues on through Thanksgiving and Christmas and the New Year. There's just so many celebrations, and I feel that our loved ones, especially with our birthdays or their birthdays or anniversaries, things like that of bliss, because the spirit realm is so full of love, that when we raise our consciousness to experience that love, that joy, that we're making the veil thin. And it's not just during this time, but it's at every time that we feel that love and that joy in our life, that we cause the veil to be thin, that we are experiencing that spirit realm. And because our spirit self is still in spirit, and our soul self, which is in our being, our physical being, are still tied, then we are almost drawing it to us and I can't think of any other way to acknowledge that, but it seems like we draw that energy to us closer because of that joy that we're experiencing, because of that love. And I think it's the same way with celebrations and with this, is that we ourselves thin the veil during celebration times like Halloween. So you may experience communication from spirit, maybe not from loved ones per se, but maybe from angels or ascended masters, or our spirit guide, and even the more physical, more material energies of unicorns or fairies or gnomes, dragons, will feel that energy a little bit easier during this time. Also, with our psychic and intuitive abilities, as I talk about a lot, we have all of the psychic abilities. We have all of the intuitive communication devices. We have all of those within us, and during this time they're heightened. And so if you are usually a clairvoyant, if you see things a lot of times but you don't hear things, you're not clairaudient very often, you can actually hone those abilities a little bit easier during this time of the veil being thin, and be able to acknowledge them and work with them a lot easier, more easily and effortlessly than maybe some other times, just because we believe the veil is thinner during this time. So feel free to work with those. It's a wonderful time to play with those intuitive and psychic abilities that maybe you have been wanting to really dig into and learn a little bit more from. That right now is a great time. Actually, a ritual that helps to initiate, to bring those back into focus, those clairs or those intuitive feelings or hits that we get, is by lighting a candle. The simple act of lighting a candle, and that flame being representative of a beginning. It's beginning. It is bright. It is very light giving. And because of that, just by lighting a candle, being still, saying a blessing, or praying or meditating, just quietly sitting for a few minutes every day has tremendous benefits. And we can do this anytime, but during this time with the veil being thin, if you're wanting to work on your psychic or intuitive abilities, this is a great little ritual that you can do. You may be surprised at how many hits that you get from spirit, just questions being acknowledged and answered, guidance being offered easily and effortlessly during this time of year is just amazing. And that is Halloween, I believe, in a nutshell. So the second one that I want to talk about may be a little less known, but I do have to say that I grew up in San Jose, California, and during my elementary school years, we actually celebrated everything. I was a minority at that school, and for that reason, I think, and I feel so blessed to have been able to experience it, we celebrated everything: Christmas, Cinco de Mayo, Thanksgiving, and we did celebrate Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead. And it was a celebration. It was festivities galore. We had games and party stuff and people dressed up as sugar skulls and skeletons and just these bright, beautiful headdresses. It was just so much fun. I loved it. And I did later on, when I was in high school, go to a haunted house with some friends, with a group of us, and the whole theme was Dia de Muertos, Day of the Dead, and it was scary and morbid and horrible, and I had to laugh, and I was so dumbfounded that people would take it to such a weird level, but it was very interesting. So I thought it was ridiculous, and I basically at that time refused to participate in it. And even though I went through the haunted house, I was thinking through the whole time, this is not how Day of the Dead should be represented. And I was kind of taken back by it. Anyway, so some of the myths are that it is a Mexican version of Halloween. And it is so not true. That is not a no. Does not. Day of the Dead actually has been celebrated since 1800 BC. 1800 BC, that's a long time. So I'm just saying that it is not a Mexican version of Halloween. They actually have their own things, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, but not a Mexican Halloween, just not. Number 2, that it's scary and morbid. And it's interesting how many people thought that Dia de Muertos, or Day of the Dead, is scary and morbid and just horrible. But sugar skulls, really? No, not even close. And they're honoring the dead. It's very similar, I do have to say, to Halloween, but or not Halloween per se, but the Samhain. It is more towards the celebration of the afterlife. So scary and morbid? Not at all. And number 3, that it's associated with Halloween. It's really not associated with Halloween. Like I said before, it isn't. It is actually originally celebrated at the beginning of summer. So it wasn't even celebrated during this time. It wasn't until the Spanish colonized, and slowly over time it became what it is now. It's November. It's actually October 31st to November 2nd is when Dia de Muertos is actually celebrated. So, and honestly, it is kind of the same thing with the church. It is around the time of All Hallowtide, which celebrates All Saints Eve, All Saints Day, and All Souls Day, which is October 31st to November 2nd. So it kind of is during that time. What do I believe the truth is of Dia de Muertos, or Day of the Dead? What do I feel is the truth in my heart of hearts? If you Google Dia de Muertos, or Day of the Dead, you'll see tons and tons of videos of these beautiful, elaborate festivities in the streets, gorgeous women with beautiful headdresses, brides and grooms dressed up as skeletons, as these sugar skulls. It's just fun and beautiful, and I believe the truth is that the toys and the gifts that you'll see, flowers, notes, are left to celebrate and honor the dead, which isn't scary at all. We actually do that. If you think about it, we do that every time someone passes, or if there's a big tragedy somewhere. Like we had a mall shooting here, and my husband and I went by the mall, and underneath some tents were like the awnings tents. There were candles lit, there were notes, there were gifts, there were crosses left for the people there. And to me, for Dia de Muertos, that is what they're doing. They're celebrating the dead. They are honoring those that have passed, and they believe that those souls are still around and they're still occupying, the space with us. There's also, if you go on, you'll see, and like I was talking about, there's a lot of women in like these beautiful headdresses, and there's a skeleton woman that is representative, that they say, of Dia de Muertos, and her name is Katrina, the Elegant Skull. She was created by Jose Guadalupe Posada. And you can see her a lot during the celebration time. You'll see her, woman in, I think she's almost wearing a beautiful dress at times with a beautiful headdress. And just like sugar skulls, which honor and are given to both the living and the dead, the sugar skulls, they most often decorate doorsteps of the departed, relatives of the departed, like a home ofrenda or the gravestone. They have small sugar skulls for children, and they have larger sugar skulls for adults. A lot of times I'm just going to turn my notes over. A lot of times they are going to they write the name of the deceased on the forehead of the skull, just to honor the person, and then leave that. Either if you get it as a living person, then it's just like something to eat, or a toy, or just a gift to memorize or memorialize that celebration. So not scary at all. Not at all. So a ritual that I think is so fun to do is bake cookies. During September, October time, you can actually find skull cookie cutters, and you can take those and punch out some cookies and bake them up, sugar cookies or whatever kind of cookies you want, and then take beautiful icing. Go on YouTube, find some pictures or images of sugar skulls that you love, that maybe not so intricate, something that you can do with icing, and just decorate them with colorful icings. Make your own sugar skulls. And the fun thing about it is, if you mess up, you just take a frosting knife or a not sharp butter knife and whip that frosting off the top, or you can just pop that cookie right in your mouth and go on to the other ones. So it's just great fun, and it's a wonderful ritual that you can, even if you wanted to honor your deceased loved ones, write their name on the forehead of the sugar skull that you decorate, and just honor them and think about them as you eat the cookie. And as you eat the cookie and think about that person, just know that they are loving you and they are being loved, and just that constant circle of there's no beginning, there's no ending, there is only being, whether in all forms, in all shapes and sizes, in all dimensions and realities. It just is. Also, you can erect a small altar for yourself, so that you can honor your loved ones. Maybe light the candle during those 3 days, and let just that thought of the person come to you and know that they're with you always, and just celebrate that person. Honor the celebration and the festivity of what it is. You may even get a message or two there again with the veil being thin. You never know. Energy is a wonderful thing. So I'm just sending you a wonderful, wonderful enjoyment of October and this beautiful holiday season with Halloween, whether you celebrate Halloween, All Saints Day, All Hallows Eve, Samhain, and there again, also Dia de Muertos, or Day of the Dead. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season, full of festivities and joy and love. And as always, I'm sending you and yours love, light, and eternal blessings. Till next time, I'll see you then.